Hey folks, thanks for watching my monologue. I'd like to encourage you to visit Guns Etc. They're strong supporters of our president and the principles our country was founded upon. Guns Etc. is 10,200 square feet and is a firearm lover's paradise. And for all your online firearms needs, just click on gunsetcetera.com. And if you like my monologues, please subscribe to our channel, 960 The Patriot. Back Thursday, February 27th, 2020. It is a delight to welcome back to the show Congressman representing Arizona's fighting 5th Congressional District. He is the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. He is Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs, welcome back to the show right off the top of the hour. It's great to have you.
Great to be with you, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. I want to get to a bunch of things going on Capitol Hill, but before we do that, I wanted to ask you just your sense. I can't help. You're the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. You probably watched the debate the other night amongst the Democratic candidates running for president in South Carolina. I listened carefully for several words, as I listened carefully for a lot of things. And I double-checked on the entire transcript. The word freedom was not used once. We heard socialism a bunch. We never heard the word freedom. You know what else we didn't hear? The word constitution. You're the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. What does this tell you about the two world views of the two main parties in America right now?
Well, we have seen some very divergent trajectories of beliefs in the base of the parties. And if you really want to see it, look at the platforms of the parties, and you'll see individual freedom is a hallmark of the Republican Party platform. The Democrats don't talk about that. They talk about things like social justice and human rights. They're not interested in individual rights. They're interested in when we talk social justice, when we talk human rights, their worldview is kind of a view that indicates that the collective is more important than the individual. That's exactly the opposite of the Republicans, who believe that the individual is paramount, that families are the most basic fundamental unit of our society, and that our rights are inherent, God-given. They don't necessarily believe that. They're comfortable with the idea of vested rights. Vested rights are rights given to you by government that can equally be taken away from you by government. We believe that the government's role is actually not to take away your rights and not to grant you rights, but to protect your rights, which are inherent in every human being.
You've probably received the same kind of inquiries, emails, letters, calls to your office as I get on the show, Andy. And the question that keeps recurring is, my goodness, 20 some odd years plus beyond the fall of the Berlin Wall, 30 years beyond the fall of the Berlin Wall, how is it we're back to the kind of conversation that led to the creation of the Berlin Wall? People have forgotten so much, I suppose, is one answer. But the other question is, how much purchase in the American public is there? How much desire in the American public is there for the kinds of things you're hearing on the Democratic stage, this socialist collectivist ethos that you're describing, and that Bernie Sanders describes in full, and the others describe at the margins?
Yeah, and let's just clarify that Bernie Sanders is really a communist. I mean, that really is his philosophy. The others don't view themselves as communists. They view themselves as socialists. But socialism is just a variant of communism, or vice versa. I guess it would be easier to say communism is a variant of socialism. But both require authoritarianism.
That's right.
And when you say how much purchase, how well received is this?
Right.
Well, I mean, the fact that every candidate in the Democrat Party for president is basically along those same lines and has moved to the extreme is really an indication that we should be concerned in this country. The institutions that are there are just astounding in their failure to present both sides. It used to be that, for instance, you might see a problem in a high school class or in an undergrad class, saying, "Here's the problem," and then present you two solutions. You figure out logically which one you think is appropriate. Now what you get is, here's a problem. Here's two solutions. This one is righteous, and this one's evil.
Right.
And if it's righteous, it's a socialism deal. If it's an individual free market based approach, it's evil. And this is the problem. So when you lose control of your institutions the way we have here, to a large measure, not completely, but so they're redeemable, but to a large measure, that is going to be, and you've been that way for a couple of generations. That is going to be integral in undermining what had been, I think, the hallmark of America, which is that even though we disagreed on so many fundamental issues, we all agreed we were Americans. We all agreed this was a great country. We all agreed in individual rights and freedoms. The question is how best to protect and preserve those individual rights and freedoms. And we've changed that. I don't believe that the majority of Americans have gone over to the other side, but I will say, Seth, I think that there's an unhealthy plurality that has walked over to that side.
I think that's a great way to put it. Thomas Jefferson, you and I have discussed this before in his first inaugural, said, "We're all Federalists, we're all Republicans. Not every difference of opinion is a difference of principle." I don't think we're there anymore. I think we have two parties representing two different principles, not opinions, as you say, about how best to achieve the principles we all agreed upon. I don't think we're agreed upon the principles anymore.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, don't forget that Jefferson iterated something that I think was true in this country for about 150 years when he said, what kind of government are we supposed to have? Well, we're supposed to have a kind of government that basically allows the individual to, and I'm paraphrasing here, this was in his second inaugural, he said, we allow the individual to basically fulfill the measure of their creation, and we ask only for our government for the protection of our rights, and any government that does more than that is basically illegitimate. That's where we were until, I would say, late 1800s, when you saw the first populist progressive movement come in, and then when you saw the Supreme Court go progressive populist in the late teens, early 20s of the last century. That really changed some of the trajectory, even though they were hanging on until FDR came in and threatened to pack the court unless they gave him what he wanted.
Right, and packing the court is the way. I suppose that would be one of the institutions. They've all but packed the federal courts up until about 2 years ago, didn't they? Because, as de Tocqueville reminded us, it's unique to America that every political question ends up being a judicial question. It's been, I think, right? No, true, right? He lamented it, but it was true in the 19th century, as true as it is up until Donald Trump became president. One of the reasons we esteem Donald Trump's efforts so much when it comes to the federal judiciary and trying to turn that wheel back. Don't you think that's what animates the anger against Donald Trump more than anything else, what he's doing on those institutional levels, taking back the courts, making efforts to get back into the universities, making efforts to take back some of the institutions the long march of the Democratic left has gone through in our institutions? Don't you think that's what angers them more than anything else?
I think that's what the leadership of the left, it animates them for sure. I mean, look, I'm just telling you, and I've been saying this for a long time, but if President Trump were allowed to replace a third Supreme Court justice, like, let's say, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, there will be rioting in the streets, guaranteed, because they will not, the left will not stand for that. One of the reasons that they go to the judicial branch is because their ideas are so leftist and antithetical to individual freedom and the rights that we've enjoyed in America, that they can't get elected on that agenda broadly. And so they've relied on the courts since, really, quite frankly, you saw it in the late 1948 decisions on prayer and God.
Yeah, the Everson decision, that's right,
Exactly. And then you move into the Roe v. Wade decision where that matter was settled in the states. Abortion was settled in the states and had been for 100 some odd years. and the federal court, the United States Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade, basically said, we don't care. We have no authority to really get at this, so we're going to find some kind of ephemeral penumbra of rights, privacy rights, that we're going to go there. And that's a result of basically Griswold v. Connecticut, which is in the late 60s, prior to Roe v. Wade.
Right. Andy, I didn't know we were going to do this, but I love doing political philosophy with you. This was a lot of fun. I said to Dan, I want to talk about coronavirus and these other issues, but I have a political philosophy question for Andy. He goes, ask him whatever you want. I loved it, Andy. This was great. Political Philosophy 101 with the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. What could be better?
Well, I don't know, but I can think of a few things.
Not in my business, Andy. Not in mine. God love you. We all do love you. I hope you know that. Thanks for all your great work. Thanks for stopping by real quick too.
My pleasure. Thanks, Seth. Thanks to all your listeners as well. As we fight this fight, it's very important that we keep fighting, not give up.
God
Can't
bless
give
you.
up ever.
You betcha. God bless you.
Thank you.